Okay, welcome back. I have an iPhone app that gives me an hourglass. I'm going to try to show it to you. I don't know if it's going to work or not. See my hourglass? Now I know I won't go over 6 minutes on this thing because it makes a very loud, awful noise. If you do free app on your iPhone, if you get one of these iPhones, you won't regret it. At any rate, if you take the time to read these early chapters in your social work book, the one we're using, the Rubin and Babby book, what you're going to be getting out of it is that methodology. The methodology of the scientific method assumes a scientific and comprehensive approach to finding data, and preferably finding large, diverse samples, and using specific procedures that can and will perhaps be replicated. That is what the scientific method is all about. Now we're going to move on to something called evidence-based practice. You're probably familiar with this. Maybe you've even had an entire course on it. That would be cool. Then you can correct me on all my mistakes in this lecture, if there are any. I don't really know. All right. So basically, this is all about our profession again, learning the hard way, suffering serious disrespect when we didn't practice this way, when we relied primarily upon supervisors and expert consultants, usually the psychiatrist, usually a male, of course, to tell. Now, no disrespect if any of you guys are males. But we looked for authority. Remember, that was another way of knowing outside of the scientific method to guide us in what we did. We looked for a consult. Someone told us what to do. Anyway, we're going to review this whole topic. Get into a little bit more depth, because evidence-based practice is a model of social work. But unlike the others, like say task-centered therapy or solution-oriented therapy or mindfulness or EMDR, this is an Uber method. It's an Uber model. All of the other models are subsumed in it. Evidence-based practice assumes that every model probably has something valuable to contribute to the knowledge base of all the mental health professions. And it just depends upon whom they're used with and how they are used and when. And evidence-based practice is one of these types of models that actually allows us to evaluate our own practices. And as clinicians, you might be interested in this sort of thing, taking a look at your own practice. I personally use a little pencil and paper depression test, and I have one for self-esteem that I give to people once I've made a diagnosis. I want to confirm my diagnosis, and I want to see how that individual's depression changes over time. I use the Beck, I think it's a Beck pen and pencil instrument, maybe 10 questions long. There are dozens of these kinds of things. If we look for them, your average social worker wouldn't even think about looking for them, but frankly, they should. A social worker who considers herself or himself as an evidence-based practitioner is basically making practice decisions based upon the best research evidence available. And once again, we'll look at that history and see how this particular Uber model emerged. It's not a new idea conceptually. Mary Richmond talked about it in 1917, how social workers needed to do research to convince politicians and policymakers that they needed to provide more for their constituents by way of social services. So she went out and she did canvassing and got people's opinions about what they were doing and what they still needed. Now, when the social work as a profession underwent the scrutiny vis-a-vis its effectiveness, as we've already discussed, the empirical clinical model emerged. Write that down. Empirical clinical model. This model was used at the time in real research designs, especially what they called single case designs, which social workers use to evaluate their very own practices. Few social workers of our generation have even heard of it, but now you know that it's a worthwhile thing to do. Anyway, this empirical clinical model emerged into the evidence-based model that we have today. You're going to hear that sound very soon. Oh man, 6 minutes is up. But anyway, no longer was it necessary to take a sharp look at our work. Oh dear, as a single system design, because with empirical studies on all kinds of interventions, we could simply look at what was working for other people and use that when we knew who it was working for. And that sort of hedged our bets that what we were doing was evidence-based. If the intervention I was using on the population I was using it for had already been proven effective in somebody else's study, I could use it. I didn't really have to evaluate my work all that much. I could just assume it was probably going to work. Now, I'm going to ask you to do an assignment in the next video. Hold on. Hopefully this isn't over.